Hello and welcome. Well, I'd love to ask you a question. How are you coping with everything at the moment? There's no doubt that these last few months that life has been really tough with the whole family living on top of each other, trying their best to manage and juggle living, working from home, and everyone's been living under each other's noses, under one roof, 24/7. I guess when you think about it, it really is a recipe for disaster. And talking about recipes, at least they generally come with directions and step-by-step instructions. And this whole COVID-19 era surely did not. So with everyone trying their very best, it doesn't hurt to have some guidance. And to help us through this challenging time, we're going to speak to our special guest today. We're really thrilled to welcome Martine Oglethorpe. Now, she's a digital wellbeing and online safety educator, otherwise known as the modern parent. Now, Martine Oglethorpe is a mother to 5 boys, which is incredible. And she has a background in secondary education and she has a master's in counselling. And through her personal and professional work with families, raising children, she recognises the important role that technology plays in the lives of children today and in the role that we can play in our day-to-day lives. And also not just that, but the safety and the social emotional well-being that we have to be aware of, given that we spend our lives online so much. And Martine is going to share with us her 5 well-being tips to live, learn, and to work from home. And thank you so much for joining us today, Martine. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
No problems at all. We're really grateful for your time. And, as I was just alluding to earlier on, there is no doubt that life has been challenging. And I guess many households have really struggled these last few months. And I'd love to know from your perspective, what do you think has been the biggest challenge for everyone at the moment?
Well, I think there's been lots of challenges, certainly, and I think obviously, like adjusting to a really different way of living and learning and working has meant that we've got to change our mindset around things. We've had to change logistically around things, and I think so. A lot of it has just come down to just that overwhelm. So parents are just feeling like there's a lot of stuff that they have to do, a lot of stuff that they don't understand, and then we've got all of this use of screens, and these are taking over our lives. And so there's just there's a whole lot of stuff that the parents are now having to deal with and manage, as well as look after themselves and look after their families, keep their own businesses going. There's just been a lot of overwhelm, I think, that the parents have been experiencing at this time.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's not just one thing, it's a multitude of lots of different things. Hey.
Mm.
Now, we published your article and the title is 5 Wellbeing Tips to Live, Learn and to Work from Home. For someone who hasn't read the article, can you give us a little bit of an overview to tell us what it's about and also just what inspired you to write it?
Mm. Yeah, well, I guess I was inspired to write it because I was seeing from a lot of my own readers and even in my own social circles and on my own feeds and my friendship groups that there was this feeling of overwhelm and this feeling of how am I supposed to get all of this stuff done and how am I supposed to keep the family and the household running smoothly when this is an area that is something that's very new. And as you said, there was no recipe, there was no outline for us, and it happened so quickly. So I guess I wanted to help families, and particularly parents, focus on how they can look after their own well-being, and in doing so, look after the well-being of their families. So I guess I just wanted to outline just some steps to take, or even just some mindsets to have in order to help parents through this time. So it's things like really looking at your own individual experience and your own family's experiences this time, and what is important to your family right now. What are your family's needs? We're all in very, very different situations. And even though we're all locked down and experiencing the same global pandemic, our individual experiences in our families and our households are very different. And so, we want to be careful that we're not comparing ourselves to what everybody else is doing and seemingly achieving, but making sure we're looking at what do we need right now in this household, and what do our kids need, and how am I going to be able to, to best get that done. So certainly running our own race, or I even put in brackets for that first point, shuffling if you have to. If we're just shuffling along, then that's okay too. Really, because I think more importantly than ever, our well-being is the thing that we need to be focusing on, because if we don't have that, because we're in such close quarters with each other, because our kids are feeding off our emotions and we're setting the tone of the household. I think, we have to make sure that we're looking after that first and foremost if we're going to have any hope of our kids, getting work done or remote learning and all those sorts of things. Because we've all seen what happens when, I'm sure we've all experienced, when we thought we were going to achieve all of these things with our remote learning and all those sorts of things, and they can very quickly go out the window, and we didn't quite achieve everything that we wanted. Our kids didn't quite concentrate the way we thought they would, and so everything can quickly unravel. So I guess I want parents to really just look at, what are my circumstances now? How do I run my own race? And that might mean having things like some structure to your day, but working out what works for your family. If your family and your kids work by structure and those really strict timetables, then do that. If that's not really going to work for you, then don't hold yourself to those things. And I think even having those structures, they do need to be a little bit flexible, because we all, as we've seen, things can unravel quickly, or the kid's just not in the mood to do this right now. The sun's out, let's get outside. We want to be able to change things up as well. So having that structure there, but also keeping it flexible. And I'd also talk about the importance of having some routines and rituals, trying to maintain some that we had already from the time pre-COVID, but also even just creating some new ones is really important, because that helps gives kids a little bit of stability and a little bit of knowing what's going on. At a time when we don't know a lot about what's going on, just having those little routines and rituals can really help them, just get some of that stability and that normalcy back. And then we also want to look at, there's lots of other ways that kids are learning at the moment. So, if they're not sitting down for you and doing their curriculum or their maths sheet so well today, then, maybe there's something else you can do. Maybe you can go and bake a cake together, and, all those sorts of things, just to work out what's working for you at the moment. Now, obviously, it's a bit different when you've got those older children who have a lot more structure to their day and their timetable. But with the younger ones, I think we can, be prepared to be a little bit more flexible and recognize that there's going to be a whole lot of ways that they can learn. And then finally, I think it's important that, we really communicate with each other all the time around what's going on, what we're all feeling, and why we've had to make changes, what do they look like now, what are they going to look like in the future, just trying to have some conversations and keep it all open, so that the kids understand that, it is a different time, but we don't want it to be something that they're really scared of. We want to try and keep it a little bit light as well, and try and show them some positives as well. So trying to communicate a lot of that throughout.
That's just wonderful. And we'll have a link to that article, which we're going to speak about more in a moment too. But thank you for sharing all of those tips. Now, studies have really shown us, I guess, when children are in a regular routine, and they can recall the times in their day that they, they know something is going to happen, and they've got that sense of structure, they are more likely to feel a sense of well-being and security. So can you tell us a little bit more about this, this point of view and this thought process?
Yeah, definitely. So, as I said, when we have a lot of uncertainty in our life, or we have a lot of questions that we can't always answer, and certainly parents are not able to answer all their kids' questions at the moment. I think it's really important for them to have some things that remain secure and remain structured, and remain that this is going to still happen. So regardless of whatever else is going on in the world, I know that every night mum or dad reads me a story before bed. Or I know that in the morning we sit and have our brekkie together, and we have a chat about something. Or we go and get a milkshake at this time, or we take the dog for a walk at this time. And even those little routines and rituals, it can be enough just to remind kids that things are going to be okay, and things can move along, as long as we've got some sense of there is still some structure to our day, but there's just some things that are still going to happen, and it just provides them a little bit of certainty in this world that is still uncertain. So we can, as I said, create new rituals for this time.
Yep.
There might, because we're all home a lot more, we can be doing things that we may not have been able to do before. So we might be walking the dog in the middle of the day, or we might be going down to a park and kicking a ball, or whatever it is. And that might be something that we do every day or most days, or trying to bring some of these things in, so that they can feel like there is some certainty around what happens to their day.
And you mentioned that there are so many ways that our kids can learn that doesn't rely just on curriculum itself, but it's still going to be so important for their own growth and development. Now, in the article, you provide a fantastic list. I think it's point number 4, I think it is, if I can recall. Could you possibly just run through some of those with us, because they are fantastic ideas?
Yeah, well, I guess my first one, for those of us that have more than one child, it's hanging out with siblings is in itself a learning experience, because they're under one roof together. They're having to play with the same sorts of things, or they're having to take turns. So there's conflict negotiation, and there's all those sorts of things. And
Yep.
so certainly resource sharing, sharing our toys, sharing the controller for the PS4, whatever it is. So certainly, just learning to live in confined spaces with the same people every day has been certainly a great learning experience for many. But there's a whole range of other activities that we can do as well that don't just revolve around our curriculum based learning. So even, playing those video games can certainly, give us some skills and some coordination and hand-eye coordination and spatial awareness and tracking and thinking outside the box, and, thinking of the best way to build your city on Minecraft, or whatever it is you're doing. There's lots of learning that happens there. Even just, listening to your audio books, reading, all those sorts of things are still, obviously, we're learning. Yeah, even just some little chores and things that we have to do. There's things that they might be doing now that they didn't have to do before, or we didn't make them do because we're too busy running around. It's easier just to, make us make their lunch or whatever it is. So even giving them little chores like making up, their lunch, packing up their toys and their games, all those sorts of things, doing a few household chores, maybe having a go at cooking a meal with you, or baking something. All of these sorts of skills that they can be learning, that we might now have some of the time to give them. Obviously, just all of our physical activities, anytime we're going outside, going for a walk, kicking a ball. Again, we're still learning, and we're still working on a whole lot of skills as well. And just hanging out with our kids, sitting on the couch watching a movie together, it's still important time, and it's still allowing them to grow, and it's also just a way that we can also help reflect with them, and help show them that they've got some resilience that they've been building on, because there was a lot of things that have changed for them, and look at what we can do when even when we, if somebody had said you're going to have all of these things taken away from you, it's a pretty scary prospect. But then when we can sit with our kids and reflect a little bit, we can remind them that they've been able to achieve lots of great things, and they've been able to overcome some big obstacles, missing out on birthday parties and seeing their friends and playing their sport and their competition and all those sorts of things have been massive losses for them. But I think even just being able to reflect and talk about those things as well can be really helpful, and a good way for them to realize that in the future there'll be more obstacles in their life. But we know that we can certainly try and overcome these, and we have before, so we can again.
Yeah, and they're really great tips. I guess for any parent that may be concerned at the moment about their children, feeling that their children aren't learning enough. There are lessons in everything that we do, all day, every day. And I think that list really gives a great sort of insight into sort of having that perspective of, well, there's a lesson in every one thing, and you can sort of go through one by one to help you sort of feel that you are sort of continuing their education and lifelong learning whilst they're at home in isolation at the moment. And that being said, I guess for parents as well, there's a lot of concerns that parents are feeling for themselves. So I'd love to know from your perspective, what are some things that parents can do to look after themselves at this time as well?
Mm. Yeah. Well, I think it's really important, yeah, that parents do look after themselves. I know we talk about self-care and things like that, but I do think they're really important, particularly at this time, because it can be easy for us to put everybody else first, and making sure that we're looking after the kids and that they're getting all of their needs met.
Yeah.
But you know, we know we can't do that if we're not looking after ourselves first. So I think, you know, just being really practical with the sorts of things that we need. If you need to go for a walk on your own, then you need to go for a walk on your own. If you need to have some time out, if you need to ask for some help from the family members, you know, we ask for help. So really, and again, just trying to have that mindset of looking at what do you and your individual families need, without looking at what everybody else is doing, because I think that's what has really got a lot of parents really caught up in this overwhelm, is this looking at, you know, I can't do everything the way everybody else is doing it. You know, such and such is, you know, making sourdough bread every day, and such is learning a new language, and I'm just barely managing to get through the day. And so I think the biggest thing we can do for ourselves and our self-care is to run our own race, look at our own needs, and then, you know that if we're looking after what we know we need, we're going to be in a much better position to you know, translate that to our kids.
Yeah, and you mentioned in the fifth point in the article about the importance of communication, and I'd like to read a little bit out from that part of the article. So, in your own words, you know, just because we're pretty much living on top of each other at the moment doesn't mean we're always communicating well. And more than ever, it is crucial that we keep connecting, talking, listening, and discussing the challenges as they arise. So when people feel heard, they feel that they have a say in how things are managed, and there is a much greater likelihood of compromise and understanding, the likelihood of harmony and sanity for all. So can you tell us a little bit more about why you think this is so important at the moment, and more so than ever?
Yeah, like, yeah, well, I think we are all, because we are all living together, it kind of assumes that we all know everything that's going on with each other, and we all, you know, get everybody's challenges and all those sorts of things. And that's, you know, probably very rarely the case, and probably less so now. So because we are spending a lot of time together and we're doing lots of things together, but we're not necessarily always communicating with what our needs are right now. And it's also important that not only are we talking to our family members, but also if we're working, making sure that our colleagues and our peers, that they understand what are our needs at the moment and what's our situation at the
Yeah.
moment. You know, maybe we can't get on that Zoom call at 9 o'clock because I'm trying to start, you know, working with my kids at that time. Or so it's really making sure that we let our needs be known to everybody that's you know, around us at the moment. So in terms of our partners, making sure that we're, you know, looking at what's on our day. How is this going to work? I'm actually going to need some time to do this. Can you take the kids then? And all those sorts of things need to be communicated so that we're not, you know, building up resentment with each other, or all those sorts of things. And again, telling our kids, you know, that, you know, I'm also running a business if that's the case, and so I'm going to need time to do some things as well. And these are the times when I can't give you my attention, or whatever it is. So you know, letting everybody know what needs to happen in a day, and what your needs are as well, so that we can again make sure that we're trying to limit the conflict, but also, you know, make sure that we're all listening to each other as well.
And we are starting to like transition out of this time now. So how do you think, I guess, parents will manage the changes, and also with kids managing, I guess, a reduction in screen time, and a return to possibly sort of firmer boundaries with the amount of time they're going to be spending in front of a computer?
Yeah, well, obviously we've had, you know, huge amounts of screen time. Most families, I imagine, much more than they would have previously. So I think it's really important to recognise that that increased screen time was part of a time and part of a necessity, because we needed it to learn, we needed it to work, we needed it to connect with our friends and our family, we needed it to be entertained, because a lot of the normal means of all of those things have been taken away. So we have to, you know, recognize that, you know, this was why we needed to increase this screen time. But as things start to go back to normal, whatever that normal is going to look like, there are going to be changes. And again, that's why it's really important we communicate that to our kids, that, you know, yes, I know I let you play 2 hours of Minecraft, you know, the other day, but that's because I had an important meeting that has to happen, or whatever it is. And so it is okay to communicate that, you know, when things go back, when you're back at school and you've got other things happening, then we don't need to have that same sort of time, because, you know, you have other avenues of being entertained, you have other avenues of connecting with your friends, and all of that. So, you know, we will be, maybe changing the rules again and working out what's going to work again in our family situation. And so it doesn't have to mean that we go completely cold turkey on them and shut everything down the day they go back to school. I think we want to sort of, again, because as these restrictions are eased, so too can our restrictions in our home be eased a little bit as well.
Nice.
But just also doing it slowly and looking at how they're coping as well, and just trying to slowly get things back to normal. And that will also be the case when they go back to school, and maybe they're not going to go back to all of their extracurricular activities at the one time. So, these things might happen a lot more slowly. So it's just, again, none of us really know what's happening, in weeks to come. So it's really just taking each day as it comes and working out, what are our kids' needs right now, and how we're best going to do that for them.
And the other question I was going to ask also is about social media. It really, for many, has helped us stay connected at a time when we have been sort of physically segregated. But one of the negative things, and as you mentioned earlier on, about social media is the fact that it really, that many people consciously, maybe even subconsciously, end up comparing their lives to others. So let's face it, really on social media, you only really see the highlights or the show reel of people's lives, which is all of the good stuff or the shiny stuff. But, in reality, this isn't a healthy thing. And in this scenario, I guess at the moment where people are already going through a bit of a challenging time, it could be almost a little bit sort of poisonous, I guess, in some instances, for everybody to be watching these things when we're already, for a lot of people, maybe quite sensitive or in a fragile state, depending on what they're going through. So I'd love to know what's your advice for anyone that has found themselves in this situation lately, that they've been a little bit sort of sensitive in what's going on in their life. And of course, for a mental break, let's say they jump onto social media, and then they're going through their thread and they're seeing other people. As you said earlier on, I'm doing this and I'm learning a language and I'm doing all these wonderful things. What's your thoughts on this, and how can people navigate their way around it?
Yeah, well, I guess it's one of those real catch-22s, isn't it? Because yes, we want to stay connected and it does help us. In some ways, it might be motivating us or inspiring us. But for others, it might be really, really taxing on our well-being, and we might be comparing ourselves, and we might be feeling excluded, or we might be feeling like we're not achieving or not good enough. And it's very easy for us to say, oh, you're only getting the highlights reel and not really that great, and don't compare yourself. But it's one of the real challenges, I think, for everyone, not only for our kids, but for obviously for adults as well. So I guess the way I try and get young people and parents as well to look at this is to think, how can I be really mindful of what I'm scrolling and what I'm feeding into myself and into my daily life? And so trying to be conscious when we are having that time of just scrolling through our feeds, at whatever the end of the day or whenever we're just scrolling, and really trying to be conscious of what am I getting out of this? How is it making me feel right now? And are these the people I should be following?
Yes.
Or maybe there's a few people I might just have to mute at the moment because they're my friend, but they're not helpful for me at the moment.
Yeah.
And try and just be really mindful of what we're scrolling through, what we're reading, how much news am I getting, how much news am I feeding to my kids? Is it helpful for me? Or do I need to just have a good look at what I'm consuming? And maybe change some of those habits to make sure that I'm doing stuff that I know is going to be healthier for me, so that when I get off, when I finish that scrolling, that I actually feel better than I did when I get on. Because if I'm coming off feeling worse, then it's really wasting my time and actually hurting my time, and hurting my well-being. So really, getting good at trying to be a little bit more conscious of how we spend that time online.
Yeah. And is that something, do you think people should be doing almost on a daily basis? I mean, how often should be people having that check-in with themselves, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think as much as we can. I mean, I know that we do a lot of our scrolling absent-mindedly, and a lot of it just happens on the fly. But I think if we can, just try and be conscious every time we go online, and every time we finish scrolling, thinking, well, what did I get from that?
Yeah.
Was I inspired or motivated by what I saw? Was I feeling supported and all of that? Or did I come off feeling, wow, that makes me feel really crappy, or, I'm not feeling great about things now. And maybe I need to look at, well, what are those things that made me feel that way? Who are those people? What are those sites that I'm following? What is it that I'm reading that's making me feel that way? And maybe I need to just curate my feed a little bit differently right now. And that might mean that I block a few people at the moment, or
Yep.
just hide them, or just looking at our even looking at when I'm looking at social media, if I know I'm feeling vulnerable, is that going to be the best time for me to get online, or shall I try and do something else? So I guess it's just all about just being more aware and more conscious of how we're spending our time online, and who we're allowing into our life, really.
It's been a catch-22, really, hasn't it? Because, as I said before, where we have sort of been home in isolation, the online world has given us access to the rest of the world. And I'm not sure how a lot of people would have been able to get through the last few months without access and the use of the online world. But, for yourself as a digital wellbeing and safety officer, I'd love to know from your perspective what you can see as being the pros and cons of the online world, especially at this point in time. Starting with the pros, like what would you see as being, I guess, all of the good stuff?
Well, yeah, I think the good stuff is that it has allowed us to, obviously, to work and to learn and to continue lives, as not normally, but as close to as we can. If we didn't have this, we wouldn't be working or learning and all of those, so it would be quite different. So allowing people to continue that sort of part of their life, but then obviously allowing them to stay connected, because we know that connection is huge for humans. It's something that we need to survive, and so giving us that ability to still stay connected to our friends and our work colleagues and our families, and same for our kids. We know that the kids, and particularly teenagers as well, their social lives are pretty much everything for most
Yeah.
at the moment. So having that ability to stay connected for them has been crucial. So for those reasons, the technology has been great for us at this time, and as well as lots of other things. Yes, it's allowed us to be entertained, and we can watch all our live music streamed and all those sorts of things, and we're able to play games and all of that. So it's provided, it's filled a lot of void that has been taken away from us.
Yeah.
But
What
then,
about the cons?
obviously, yes, there's plenty of cons as well, and I guess that comes with what we usually find as the downsides of the online world is things that, yeah, we're on it for so long that we know that that's not good for us. It's not good for us physically, for our posture, our eyesight, and all those sorts of things is not great. And but also just for knowing, being so connected all day can be exhausting.
Yes.
I know that a lot of kids have complained that you're online schooling all day, and then you still want to catch up with your friends, and then you still need to use it to play or have that downtime. That's a long time that we're
Yes.
online. So it's that overuse then, and that means that we're obviously avoiding some of the things, or not getting some of the things that we certainly need. So we still need lots of active time, and time to be outside and in nature, and maybe that's taking away from some of that time. We certainly need just chilling out time to just to be and relax, and all those sorts of things. So there's certainly lots of things that we are missing out on while we're using the technology, and there needs that. This is always the case, that we always look at what's been taken away when we're using the technology. But I think because we've used it so much at this time, it does mean some of those needs might not be being met for everybody. So there's certainly been some cons. And look, we've also seen that there has been a massive increase in cyberbullying, a massive increase in
Wow.
online abuse and those sorts of things. And that's directly related to the fact that there's more of us online. There has been more, predator activity, all those sorts of things that have always been the downsides of the online world have increased over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And we can only put that down to the fact that there's more of us online, and online for longer. So, there's certainly some of the downsides that we have experienced.
Yeah, and I guess for the family overall, and I guess the amount of time that we consider spend on the, I guess, access to Netflix and internet streaming services and all that sort of stuff, which can be really addictive. So I just wanted to know from your perspective, what can we sort of do as a family to ensure our mental health when we can sort of just get sucked into watching all of
Yeah.
this stuff, on Netflix and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I actually just saw a funny meme today. It was something like, when is Netflix series 2 coming out? And it
Yeah.
was like, they've literally done the whole of Netflix. So, and I guess that is the thing, that it's the devices do answer a lot of our perceived needs. So they are entertaining us, informing us, and socializing us, and connecting us, and all of those things. And so it's very easy for us to think, well, I can get some entertainment for the next few hours just from this device, or from my computer screen, or from the television, or whatever it is. And so it's very easy just to rely on that. And it's easy, and it's there, and it's accessible. But I guess for all of us, we know that we have so many other needs that need to be met. And so I think parents do have to work a little bit harder, as I think they do in normal times. But I do think we have to work a little bit harder to make sure that our kids, all of those other needs are being met. And that means we might have to all stop everything we're doing and say, yeah, we're going out for a walk, or we're all going out to do something. Or, we're all going to play a game right now that doesn't involve a screen, or, I need you to help me in the kitchen now. And just trying
Yeah.
to give them plenty of other opportunities to do other things that we know that they need, because it's not always obvious to them, because they're quite happy, doing what they're doing and feeling like they're getting, some of those needs met. But I think we do need to work a little bit harder at times to just try and make sure that, we are helping them see that there's a lot of other things that they need.
Mm. And I'd love to ask you about dopamine. Like, what are your thoughts? Do you think Aussies overall and people all around the globe really have an addiction to it? And really, what are the concerning sort of side effects that really it can sort of have on us, and what does it cause, and that sort of stuff?
Mm. Look, I guess dopamine gets released whenever we do something that makes us feel good. And so it's not necessarily always a bad thing, when we're having a great time with our friends, dopamine gets released, when we're connecting with people, when we're doing something we enjoy, when we're dancing, whatever that is, dopamine gets released. And so that's okay. I think what happens is when we start to rely on it from ways that are not so healthy for us, then it can become a problem. So, for example, we know that our games are made in ways that want us to stay online. The gamers the creators are pretty clever at making sure that we know the hooks, we know all of the things that your brain likes, so we know what we need to do in this game to keep you online. And so that means that dopamine is continually being released, because there's always another level to go to in that game, or there's always another city to create, or another army to
The
conquer,
next
or
thing, the
whatever
next
it is.
thing.
Or there's always something more to do. And so that makes it really tricky for us to then naturally put the devices away, or stop playing, or whatever, because it feels good. So when something feels good, we don't naturally put it away, even though we know that playing for 6 or 8 hours is not going to be good for us. And so that's where I think parents just need to be monitoring how that, whatever that is that they're doing, whether it's game playing or social media, how that's affecting their child, and whether or not they have the ability to put it down when they need, making sure you're not having a tantrum when you ask them to put it down. So that might mean we need to talk about why we have some boundaries around it. It's not because I want to ruin all your fun, but it's because these devices are made with these hooks to keep us online. So I need to make sure that you're able to regulate your own behaviors as you get older. So I might need to help you do that now. And that means, and that's a lot of adults experience this as well. We all know that we've been scrolling for 5 minutes and 2 hours has gone past, and we haven't achieved a lot. But so I think it's a challenge for all of us. But I guess I don't like to talk too much in terms of addiction. I think it's more about managing the way we use the devices, and managing the effects that it has on us, and looking at, well, what are those effects having on me, and then do I need to make some changes therefore.
Yeah, and in addition to the dopamine, I guess there's a lot of games like Fortnite as an example. It's a really highly adrenalized, fast-paced game. I was watching my nephew play it just
Mm,
last week, and I was just shocked how fast it just moves. And I was just like, my brain on an average day
mm,
moves 100 miles an hour. I couldn't keep up with it. And this really has young kids addicted to the adrenaline
mm,
rush. So I'd love to understand, along with the
mm,
dopamine, what do you think with the adrenaline that's running through their bodies as well?
mm.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
well, I think, studies are starting to show us that, yes, we are starting to change our brains, because we are able to respond in different ways to things. We're no longer working in those linear patterns where we went from front to back of a book, or top to bottom. We're jumping all over the place because that's what the technology often requires of us. So and certainly we can see that when kids are playing games. Now, again, some kids can play those games like Fortnite, and they can play it for however long, and then they can happily put it down and go on and do something else, and it not have a bigger impact. But for other kids, it can have a big impact on them. It can make them more aggressive, or it can, make them really reluctant to stop. And so, I always do say to parents, really have a look at your individual child and how they're coping, and have those discussions about why we might need to then put some boundaries around it. Because, it has, they, as I said, they have some hooks, and they have all of those things that make it difficult for us to put it away. And so I want to make sure that we're looking after your well-being as well. And a good tip for boys who are on, particularly because they're usually the ones playing those sorts of games, is to get them to do something active once they've finished those games, because there is a lot of testosterone that gets built up, and that they are annihilating an army or whatever it is that they're doing. So getting them to just have some, even if it's a bit of rough and tumble and wrestle with their brother, or going out and shooting some hoops, can help really relax them and get them calm again. So I always encourage them to do something active afterwards, and always try and have that as something that they can go on with afterwards. Okay, that's enough of that activity. Now let's move on to another activity. Not always about trying to take it away from them, but just trying to explain to them that there's a whole lot of other things you need to fit into your day. That's why we have to stop this now and go on and do something else.
You've shared some really insightful information with us today. I guess if you were to summarize, your key messages for anyone watching or listening, what would they be?
Yeah, look, I think it's just really important as parents that we make sure we're paying close attention to what our kids are doing. That doesn't mean we have to keep up with every single app or game or thing that they're doing, or follow every conversation that they're having, but stay engaged with your kids at this time. Use this time to find out the sorts of things that they like to do, and use this time to help teach them some skills that they might need online, and help try and regulate some of those boundaries by giving them a whole lot of other things that they need to do into their day, so that we can kind of, I guess, try and build up some good habits and patterns for when we do, head back into whatever is normal, and make sure that we're really opening up that conversation, and so that we want our kids to feel they can come to us if things go wrong online. So I always say to parents, don't set it up as the bad guy and something that we've got to block and ban and control. Look at it as something that we have to work with, because it's not going anywhere. And we have just seen how we've been able to use it in many positive ways. So let's try and nurture the positive ways with our kids, and try and help them avoid all the more challenging aspects of it.
And if parents have got any other information, or any questions for you, I'm so sorry, or they want more information, whereabouts can they find you?
Yeah, well, they can head to my my website, which is themodernparent.net. And obviously I write on my blog regularly there. I also have my book on there, which I've just released, which is Parenting in a Digital World. Thank you. And yeah, I do regularly update on my Facebook page just the latest trends and apps and reviews and things like that as well, that can help parents with the more practical sides of parenting in a digital world. So yeah, you'll find me.
Wonderful. We'll definitely have a link in the introduction paragraph and in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time, and can't wait to chat with you again soon. Take care.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bye.